Well, hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday night. It is David with the Filipino American couple, The Adventures of Us. It is exciting to be here. It is Tuesday night, as I said, April the 4th, the year 2023, 7 p.m. It is going to be rainy and stormy and tornado-y in this part of the country tonight. So hopefully we won't be interrupted by bad weather. But we are definitely going to be getting some serious weather all through the central part of the United States, on top of the tornadoes that we had just a few days ago that wiped out a small city here in our town, in our state. We're going to talk about, are you financially ready for the Philippines and or a Filipino girlfriend? Before we get into all of that, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that alert bell, become a member of our community. Share this live stream out to everybody if you would, and we would greatly appreciate that. So, Lowe's says that he was chatting with Tony at the airport. He's about to leave Chicago. Yeah, I chatted with a Yank in the Philippines. If you guys don't know, he is on his way to the Philippines finally. And he is actually boarding, getting ready to board the plane and head off to the land of PH. So we're really happy for him because he's been really chomping at the bit to get back to the Philippines. And I got a feeling at this point in time, he is as financially ready for the Philippines as he possibly can be. Now, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Remember, you can ask questions. You're welcome to come up on the panel. I've dropped the link that you can click and join us for the discussion. We want to hear your stories. I'm going to give my advice and my opinions about things. And we're going to just kind of get into this topic, and hopefully we won't go off in the ditch too much tonight. Quick shout out to everybody for being here, and all of those folks in the South here who got wiped out by tornadoes the other day, man. Our hearts go out to you guys. Stay safe tonight. Like I said, we have a whole lot more coming through this part of the country. Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, a little bit of Texas, places, Louisiana. So there's a lot coming this way. There's a lot going on in the world besides financial matters, but we don't really care about any of that at this point. So why don't we just get started? And I'm just going to talk off the top of my head. And if anybody wants to chime in or leave a comment or ask questions, you just feel free to do that. I think this is one of the biggest overlooked questions there are when people get involved with the Filipina and or want to move to the Philippines. I think they get a little wrapped up in the romance of it, the excitement of it, the visions of grandeur and glory about how great it's going to be to live in a tropical island and have cute little girls running around giving you coconut juice every day of your life. That's not the reality of things. And as we go through these videos that I do, or this live stream tonight, look, you may be offended because I hit a little home, or you may find some enjoyment out of it. Either way, give us a thumbs up. But if you're offended, here's the simple thing you can do: don't watch. But if you want to learn some things that will help you be successful, then this is where you need to be. And I really want everybody to understand the best thing you can do is to knock the romance off of this. And what I mean is it's not all just glitz and glamour. Here's what happens a lot of times. A lot of times guys get to go over for their 30-day visit, and they're called vacation millionaires. So they go over with a pocket full of money, and they're living in resorts or they're hanging out in Providence, and everybody's treating them like kings and gold, and you know they're drinking, having a good time. The women are all there going, "Ooh, you're so cute," and they think that that's the way reality is in the Philippines. And hate to burst your bubble, it is not the reality of being in the Philippines long term. Now, look, if all you guys want to do is go for a vacation every few months and have a good time, then hey, man, live it up and enjoy it. And if you're going to get serious about a relationship, there's a lot you have to really understand when it comes to money and finances. If you're really going to think, hey, when I retire in a couple of years, I'm going to move there and be with my girlfriend, my spouse, whatever it may be, my future spouse, then you need a lot of preparation. You need to be planning that now. The people that do not plan do not succeed. And I know that's kind of like a buzzword or a cliche or an old saying, whatever it may be. But if you don't plan for this, you're not going to enjoy the Philippines or Thailand or Mexico or any other country that an expat may want to go to. And one of the first things you guys all have to do is figure out your revenue stream. Because if you think you're going to go to the Philippines and not have a revenue stream and live there, you're highly mistaken. You have to have money to live in America. Why would you think you can go there and live on nothing? It's not going to work. It doesn't make sense. And now, with that being said, one of the big questions always comes up in our world is, well, okay, great. I know I need money to live in the Philippines, but the real question is, how much money do I need to live in the Philippines? Can I live on $300 a month? Can I live on $500 a month? Can I live on 800, 1,000, 10,000? You get all these questions. And what I'm going to tell you several different ways to look at this. So you can play this back. If you only have $1,000 a month in the United States, you still only have $1,000 USD in the Philippines. And I know you're thinking right away, hey, but that $1,000 will go so much further in the Philippines. I could have hookers and beer and all the things I want for $1,000. That's not the reality. Absolutely not the reality. Sorry, guys. What a lot of gentlemen do, and this is where I may be offending some of you guys. A lot of you guys who don't make a lot of money in the world, you want to go live in a third world country because it's cheaper and you think you can live a better life than you can in America. Whether you can or can't, who cares? I don't know. That's up to you. But you have to understand, if you got $1,000 in the Philippines, in America, in the Philippines, if you live like an American, you're going to be broke in the Philippines just as easily as you're broke in the United States. If you're buying hookers and booze and all of that crap, and all you're doing is drinking your money up, oh, alcohol's cheaper. Well, it is. But here's what I've seen happen over the many, many years. I've seen a lot of guys who's big drinkers. Well, I can buy more booze with my money now that I'm in the Philippines. Sure you can. That means you're going to drink more, you're going to spend more, and you're going to burn through your $1,000. So you're still not going to be any better off financially in the Philippines than you are in the States. You're just going to be a bigger drunk. And I'm just going to tell you, The people that live in the Philippines, the Filipino people, even the foreigners that live there, they don't want you there. They don't want expats who are just big, stupid, like me, worthless drunks. They don't want you guys there. So that's your plan. Just be an alcoholic wherever you're from, and leave them alone. So like, okay, well that's great. I can live there. And what I told, we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Somebody said, "Oh, I can live in the Philippines for $300 a month." Yeah, you sure can. You can go sleep with the goats outside for $300 a month, but you're not going to live. You're not even going to live a Filipino lifestyle, a very good one, for $300 a month. So if I have to throw this number out, if you're going to say, "Okay, David, enough of your bitching, how much money do you think a person needs?" Look, and you have to, in my opinion, to even think about being remotely comfortable, decent in the Philippines, you better be producing $1,000 a month. If you're living in the cities, you're going to need more. But that's still not the whole story. So it's not just about the dollar. It's all about how you use that money. Are you going to try to live a Western lifestyle? Or are you going to be able to adapt and live more for a traditional Filipino or Mexican lifestyle? If you truly don't have enough money to live in your home country, when you get to a foreign country, you're still not going to be able to live the way that you would want it to have lived in your own home country. The disparity is not that big. Every day, it's all over the news. Inflation, 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 inflation. The Philippines is having their inflation too. When we left, last year, I think gas is pushing $5 a gallon. That's a lot. Now it's like, okay, well, I'll just take taxis all the time. Yeah, the taxi prices had climbed while we were there. They started going way up, Grab, everything. So even food in the Philippines is more expensive than it's been in the past. So you got to really adjust your mindset. You can't go at this thinking, "I'm going to escape the financial nightmare that the America is because of inflation and go live in a third world country." Those third world countries are having the same problems, without question, having the same financial problems that we are. Now, let me reiterate. It's never enough money. Whatever money you think you have that's enough, it's not going to be enough. Because what my good friend here, Les, is talking about, and he has the perfect point, that money goes out of your pocket easily. Because since you're the foreigner, you are automatically assumed to have more money than the locals. Now, you may be going, "Well, that's all in well and good, but I'm not giving them my money. I'm not supporting the family of my girlfriend. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm going to manage my money." Hey, that's great. It's not realistic, but it sounds good. But it's absolutely not realistic. Because here's what you have to understand. Once you go down the path of living with a girl, there's all kinds of expenses. Now, look, and I'm going to joke a little bit about, I have a friend here in the United States who's getting married here soon, and his wife's coming over from the Philippines. And maybe you've seen my last couple of videos about the K1 visa and stuff like that. And I've told him, we've joked about this. You have no clue how expensive the K1 visa process is until she gets here and you got to buy everything. Got to get her a car, you got to get her all these things, new clothes. Now, a very similar thing happens in the Philippines. No matter where it is, once you start shacking up, you have a lot more expenses. Okay. Now, I know some of you guys are going to go, well, I'll just make her get a job. If she wants something, she can get her own damn money and get that job, right? Well, that's still not going to bring any money into your household. And I'm a real big believer that when you have a household financially divided, you're both going to fail. The best way is to work together. So if you're going to be so stingy with your money and go, well, my money's for my beer, and what I want to do, and I'll give her a couple $100 a month to pay the rent on the shack we live in the Philippines. Well, then she goes and has to get a job, then why should she take care of you? If you're not willing to do that, but even if you invest your money and your time into that relationship, there's still going to be a negative draw from the family. I don't know how many times I have said, I'm not giving money, no more. Not shipping any more money to the Philippines. And I think I'm up well over $25,000. Every other day I tell myself, I'm not sending another damn dollar to the Philippines. And when some bullshit crisis comes up, somebody needs this, somebody needs that. And it's like, oh. And in our mentality, Western mentality, it's a little bit easier for us to just say, fine, just take the damn money, shut up, and leave us alone. So we kind of have that thing. But you're going to be expected. Well, let's talk about this a tiny bit. Well, so let's say you're going to live on your own. You're going to be a bachelor in the Philippines. And you're going to go rent a condo in Mactan, Newtown, Mactan. It's a great area. I think it's a great area for single men to go hang out in the condos. You're going to pay a good $500-600 a month for a condo. And then you're probably going to want to have somebody come in and clean, right? Maybe do your laundry for you because, it's so cheap. You probably get the taxis or the jeepneys. There's no jeepneys on Mactan. So you have to get a taxi. So to take you here and there, to go to the stores, to get the shopping done. Maybe you have a Filipina that you meet, and you start dating. Your $1,000 gets chewed up like nobody's business. Every little, and what you have to understand is there's times if you go, well, I'll just do my own laundry. People get offended because you're the Westerner, you can afford to pay that service. So what kind of crappy foreigner are you that you won't help us out by letting us do your laundry? So that can build animosity. So you got to be very careful about that. You have to be careful that who you hire may rip you off, whether it's in the Philippines, United States, anywhere. When you hire contract labor, there's no guarantee that they're not going to steal from you. So you really got to understand that the personal dynamics in the Philippines is no better than here in the United States. If you got a child in the United States that will rip you off, you're going to have a child in the Philippines that can rip you off. If you have a cousin here who will hustle you, you'll get a cousin there that will hustle you. So none of that's going to change. Sorry. None of that's going to change in any way, shape, or form. If you're not smart with your money. Now, one piece of advice that I give, never, ever, ever tell anybody how much money you have, how much money you make, how much money you bring in. Do not disclose your financial information with anybody in the Philippines. If you get married, that's a different story. But if you're dating somebody, you're shacking up with a girl, Whatever it may be, you better understand that sometimes this knowledge is something they don't need to know. So your money is not going to be enough. Unless you're pulling in, $5 grand a month, maybe you're ex-military, you're making a super good retirement, yeah, you can live very high on the hog. If you're a non-drinker, a non-smoker, and if your main goal is just not to go and sleep with little girls over there in the Philippines, then you can have a very nice life and you can manage a good life. If you get married, they make great wives and great families and great kids. So there's so much plus to it, but you got to prepare for the worst so that you can have the best, is what you have to do. So now let's talk about where does your money come from? How are you going to get it to the Philippines? Do you have somebody in the United States that you can trust enough to handle some business for you over here? Because here's a couple things to remember. And then I did a little bit of research on this week. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, is this, because I did a little bit of research, is if you don't have a job, if you haven't been working a job, or you've been working a minimum wage job most of your life, and you don't have any retirement, but all you're banking on is your Social Security money, that's a big risk. Because one thing I found out this week was, do you know what the minimum payment from Social Security is? The lowest they pay out for a retiree can be as low as $53 a month. I didn't know that. I checked it out. I went on the website, did some deep diving, and it turns out even if you work 10 years, depending on your hourly wage, and you get your credits in, $53 a month. I tried to figure out what the average was. You couldn't do it. My educated guess, is the average is probably $800 to $1,000 a month for people that just barely get their 10 years in, that just get their work credits in, who's never had a high-paying job in their life. So for those folks who thinks, okay, well, as soon as I turn whatever it is, 62, 63, I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to head off to the Philippines because I can live like a king. Couple things to keep in mind. One, you have to have a U.S. bank. The Social Security money is not going to be deposited into a foreign bank. Social Security will not put your money in a foreign bank. It goes in a U.S. bank. Now, let me say this. I know nothing about veterans and their benefits. I know nothing. I'm not in the service, never was. I don't know anything about that. So I will not speak on or speculate about how this works for the vets. I don't know. Social Security and disability both says no foreign banks, U.S. based bank. All right. So you get your money, we're just going to say $1,000. You get your $1,000 a month. Now what do? How do you manage it? Are you going to, like Mr. Luz says, how do you transfer money? So he's asking, how do foreigners transfer the big bucks from homes, vehicles, and such? All right. Let me touch on that, and I'll get back to the small money. Big money is a different. Big money is like this. Because we're not rich by any stretch. And look, if you want to give me your wealth, I'm here. But we may have more funds than others. And I have some friends that actually are quite wealthy who live in the Philippines. How do you transfer big sums of money? Well, understand this. You can take as much money to the Philippines in cash as you want. It's not the brightest thing to do, but you can do it. You got to declare it, of course. And when you leave the country, you need to declare it, especially if you're going to try to bring anything back to the United States. $10,000 is the magic number. But let's say you sold a house in the United States and you want to transfer that $200,000 to a bank in the Philippines. One, that's the stupidest thing you can do in the world. And I'm going to tell you why. At least in the United States, you're insured by the federal government at your banks. The Philippines has the same program, but where ours is like $250,000, theirs is $10,000. So if you need to buy a house in the Philippines and you want to pay cash, what you can do is a wire-to-wire transfer, or you can do a one-time where you write a check to a bank for $200,000. You put that in the bank. It takes a good 30 to 40 days to clear. Your bank account now has that money. You can turn around and buy a house with it. All right. So that works. Or you can do a bank-to-bank transfer. It's not as easy as you think with banks in the Philippines because of the banking numbers. We have problems with this. A lot of times, even though the banks say, look, we talk to each other, man, it's still difficult for them to talk electronically to each other. So that's one way that you can do that. Another thing you can do, and one thing I encourage everybody to do because this is who we use and I like them, is I have a Charles Schwab account. Charles Schwab is my bank account, the brokerage firm, the whole 9 yards. There's a couple really cool things that they do. One, you can take up to $1,000 in cash out of your ATM anywhere in the world every day. That's pretty good. Two, they charge no ATM fees. You get reimbursed each time for that. Three, if you lose or need a new card, they will send it to you wherever you're at in the world for free. Perfect. Because what you have to understand is smaller U.S. banks like my area's Regions and Harvest, they won't do those things. You can also do an online wire transfer with Charles Schwab from Charles Schwab to a Philippine bank. It's not as easy and it takes some effort, but you could transfer in a couple $100,000 if you so want to. Now, one thing I will tell you is a couple things. Vehicles. Sell every vehicle you have here. If you go into the Philippines, just buy another one there. Keep in mind they're not the same quality. They're not the same vehicles as you would buy here. So the tariff, the tax, the shipping on sending your really nice car to the Philippines is stupid. Also, that car is not going to work in the Philippines. If you're in the bigger city areas, you're going to need a small car. You know, these big 4x4s just doesn't make sense over there. You need to be nimble. So don't worry about your car. Sell your car, get rid of it. I'm going to encourage you to leave your money in the U.S. Transfer what you need to do what you need to do. So let's say you want to buy a house in the Philippines. Yeah. All right. So we got $200,000 in the bank. Our house we're going to buy is $200,000. Now I know you guys are thinking, oh my God, that's so expensive for the Philippines. No, folks, it is not. If you live out in the provinces, yes, there's a lot of people who build houses for $7,000, for $25,000. But if you live in the cities, a house is going to cost you money. They're not that far away from U.S. prices. So you got to keep that in mind. If you're going to be a city dweller, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you're going to live in the province, you got to keep in mind you don't own land. Your wife owns the land. You do have spousal rights, but you do not own the land. You will never own the land. You can own a condominium. You can rent the land, you can build a structure on the land, but you don't own the land. So when they talk a lot of times about, yeah, I built a house for $25,000 in the Philippines. Well, they did, but they didn't pay for the land. The other thing you got to keep in mind is it's usually about 1,000 square foot house, which is very adequate in the Philippines, but it's not an American style structured house. The costs are not equivalent to one another. So understand that. But if you want to buy a nice house in the city, you better cough up a couple $100,000. But here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to absolutely not pay for it all at once. Go ahead, if you're married, because this is what you have to be. So you and your wife, you're going to go to the bank. You can open a bank. If she doesn't already have a bank account, then she needs to start a bank account in the Philippines. So this is for you guys who's going to really think ahead. So one thing first, let me back up a tiny bit. If you bring your wife to America, you get married, she needs to become a U.S. citizen, then she needs to become a dual citizen. When you go back to the Philippines to retire, you can then buy a house. One of your trips there, hopefully for one of your vacations, she better open a banking account and get that established. Then when you move there full time, it will make your life much, much easier to deal with. Then what I would do, sorry about that. What I would do, if I want to buy that $200,000 house, maybe I transfer $20,000. I put that down and I have myself a house payment. All right? Because there's a couple of reasons for this. One, that means your $180,000 is working for you in the United States, where it's generating interest. That's a good thing. Two, even though it's not likely, there's been many cases in history where countries have said, we are now having whatever problem. Panama did this in the 80s. We are having these problems, and we have all decided that we're taking foreign bank accounts, foreign co-owned bank accounts. So whatever money is put in there by foreigners is going away. They may also say down the road, we're going to kick Americans out. You know, maybe the president has decided they like China better than they like America. And so therefore you forfeit your property and lose your money. So I wouldn't do that. If you're worried long-term about your wife, hey, Bill, how are you? You're welcome to come up. We're talking about money, and we'd love to have your input tonight. I've got the link in the pin there. I can drop it again here. If you're married and you're worried about your wife, what's going to happen if you kill over dead? You can set it up to where she inherits that money in that account. But that way, your money is safe. It is still earning interest in a U.S. bank. It's still very much accessible. Bill says he has no money, but we know that's not true. We know Bill is one of the rich Americans over there. And so that's my suggestion. Don't just fork out the money. Let somebody else's money work for you. And then down the road, if you want to pay it off, you can always pay it off if everything goes well. So big money's not an issue. But my recommendation is you got to keep it in your home country banks. You don't want to put it into any third world country's bank or developing nations, as they're called now. Okay, and that's the buzzword now we're using is developing nations. So we don't want to stick all of our money in one basket, and we've all been taught that. So let's get a little bit backwards about how do we get our money, smaller money, to the Philippines. And there's a lot of ways to do this. And I highly recommend, and I know Bill and some of you guys others, I highly recommend that you have redundancy set up. And here's what I mean by that. If you use a Western Union, use Remitly also. or Zoom if they're still in business. You need to have 3 to 4 different sources and ways. And so now we're talking about these guys. Even these guys are going to go over and they're going to be single, and they're looking for the beer and the hookers. That's their dream, is the beer and the hookers. Well, great. You got to get your money from the U.S. somehow, your Social Security money from the U.S. So how are you going to do that? Now, your money goes into your bank account. You can set it up where Western Union or Zoom or Remitly or any of these other money transfer services can link to your bank account. Hello there, sir. Thank you for joining us. Hello. Thank you for coming. So you can set it up to where you can transfer your money. Thank you for the thumbs up. Everybody give us a thumbs up. If you would, share out the live stream while I'm thinking of it. We'd greatly appreciate that. And everybody's welcome to come up in the panel. If you get tired of listening to me rattle on and babble on about things I probably don't know nothing about. But small money, your $1,000 Social Security check, well, you got to have a way to get cash in the Philippines, right? So you got to have a redundancy set up, because what happens sometimes, Western Union may get a little glitchy and go, well, wait a minute, we're no longer, until you can prove who you are, allow you to do Western Union transfers. Well, wait a minute, I've been doing them for 5 years. Well, Remitly may do that to you. Cash App may do that. You just don't know. So you got to have redundancy. Now, there's a lot of people that ask me, well, when I go to the Philippines for my 30 days, or when I go there to meet my girlfriend to be, whoever it is, how much money should I take to the Philippines? All of it. How much do you want to take? What kind of fun do you want to have? What do you want to do while you're there? If you don't, and I talked about this in my K1 visa videos. If you don't have the money to do a K1 visa, don't do it. If you don't have the money to go and travel to the Philippines, don't do it. If you can't afford to go over there and take a couple $1,000s with you so that you can have the best 30 days of your life, if you got to go over there on $300 in your wallet and borrow credit cards and going into debt for it, you cannot afford to travel. You cannot afford to go to the Philippines. And look, and I'm going to get off on this about the credit card situation, because I've talked to gentlemen over the years that said, well, here's my plan. I'm going to run up my credit cards for everything I can get, and I'm going to sell that merchandise, and I'm going to take all the cash I can, and I'm going to put my airline ticket on that. This is when they want to move to the Philippines permanently. I'm going to put my airline ticket on there. I'm going to do all of this, cash advances, and I'm just going to rip the credit card companies off. Well, good luck with that, folks. That's not reality. And I hate to tell you that, if you do something inappropriate in the Philippines and they kick your stupid butt back to the back to the United States, well, the credit card companies are going to come calling. So that's not the right thing to do. Why would you, here in the United States, we bitch and complain about, well, people cross the border illegally. They broke the law to get here. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't it the same thing? If you're going to rip off a bunch of people just so that you can go live in the Philippines, isn't that doing the wrong thing just so that you can immigrate to the Philippines? That's not right. Or am I wrong? You guys tell me. I don't know. I don't think I'm wrong. But if you can't do the right things in the United States, you won't do the right things in another country. More importantly, it's to be better. It's best to be better in a foreign country than it is in your own home country. You should have done that. You should have hustled everybody. No, you're too good of a guy for that. I know that. But if you want to be successful at anything, you can't start off being bad to be successful. It's not going to happen. I guess if you're Mike Tyson's and you're the baddest man on the planet, that's one thing. But you can't rip people off and go live in another country and go, oh, this is great. It's going to come back to get you. Karma, faith, fate, whatever you want to call it. All right. So if you can't afford to travel to the Philippines without moving mountains and heaven on earth to get there, you don't need to be there. Because the one thing is the Philippines, Mexico, Thailand, Australia, the United States, the one thing we don't need is people from other countries that can't carry their own weight. No country needs deadbeats in their country. And the Philippine people are really good people, but they don't need your sorry, drunken ass there. Stay home. You can't afford to do it. If you can't afford to pay for the K1 visa, if you can't afford to make those trips, then don't meet a Filipina online. Don't do it because it's going to cost you money. Let's see what Bill, check out the rallies, has to say today. Welcome.
Hey.
How are you?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Good. Are you listening to my bitching?
A little bit. I was finishing up my lunch there, so
I'm preaching today.
too. Yeah, I heard you there a little bit.
I'm preaching today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm
good.
trying to give sound financial advice.
Right.
What is your number one financial advice? There you go. Put you on the spot right away. Ooh.
Ooh. Well, you know, it's being a foreigner going to the Philippines. It's not like you can run out and grab a job if you need some extra income or something like that. So you really got to think about, you know, what you're doing. And, you know, you can't live like a baller on a poor man's budget, you know. And it's there'll be a lot of people pulling at you. So you got to be kind of, you know, a little hard and a little bit. You know, I'm not going to be able to save everybody while I'm here. So, you know, you got to think about yourself first. Have a budget for whatever it is that you're doing, and don't let the sob stories get in knock you off your plan. You know,
Because it's easy to do it. And you bring up a very good point. And I want to expand upon that point. The point is, like here in the United States, look,
mm-hmm.
if you're an illegal, let's just say this, if you're doing illegal in the United States, you can go get a job and make some money under the table.
Right.
In the Philippines, you don't have that option because why would the Philippine people hire some white guy who's going to expect a higher wage than what they can just do it themselves?
Right.
So there's not a job market for Americans in the Philippines, or
Right.
foreigners in the Philippines like us.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's even my wife, you know, she was an online teacher, and you know, the company she was working for during all this that happened, it went to dumps, and she's no longer with that company, and you know, it's not that easy to find good employment there at all. You know, you gotta really know somebody or something.
You're right. And this is what guys have to understand. And this is where the pull, and, you know, Les was talking about this earlier. There's a huge draw on a foreigner. And what you have to understand is it's hard for a woman who's above 30 to get a job.
Right.
In the Philippines.
Yep.
It's impossible for a white guy to get a job in the Philippines because there's no need. There's the labor is so cheap there, and
Exactly.
such of a high demand, and
Mhm.
plus they can do it faster and better than you can. So why would
Right.
they hire you higher than you? So if
Some
you date
J3.
somebody, right, your wife, hey Joe, how are you, man? If you're dating somebody, you have to understand that unless they already have a career, maybe they're a school teacher in the
Hmm.
Philippines,
Hmm.
so they can get a job, they can work up into their age, but
Hmm.
that salary is not huge.
Right.
You're going to come over with your measly $1,000 a month. You're going to meet them. You're going to get married. You're going to do whatever you're going to do,
Right.
and that person at least has a future.
Right.
That, right? I can get a job teaching. It's $300 a month, but hey, I can get a job teaching.
Right.
Most Filipinas, once they reach a certain age, it gets much harder. So that means there's going to be a bigger financial draw on that $1,000 that you're bringing to the Philippines to live like a king on.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
It's just it's amazing to me, and and I don't want to dissuade anybody to go to the Philippines,
Right.
except for the perverts, the drunks, and the dead.
Right.
So it's
Mm.
it's kind of like everybody who lives somewhere nice says all the bad people stay over there and leave us
Right.
alone.
Exactly.
It's the same way. But you gotta have money there.
Right.
And I'm a big believer that if you only got $1,000 in America, you only got $1,000 in the Philippines.
Right.
So
Yeah. And it's some people just don't realize that you come with $1,000 or whatever a month. You're not going to be the baller that you think you're going to be. You just can't do it. It's not going to happen. And it's you may want to be the baller, but that's not enough money to be a baller, right? So, and what I mean by the baller is the person who thinks they can. Oh, I'm taking everybody out to dinner, and I'm buying all the drinks, and I'm going to be Mr. Popular to everybody, and that is, that little $1,000 is going to go pretty quick, and depending on where you live, you might not even be able to live on 1,000, much less live a baller life. So,
well, it's like I said earlier, you can live on $300 a month in the Philippines if you want to
yep,
sleep with goats.
right, exactly,
Yeah, if you want to go hang out with the damn goats out in the
mm,
field, you can
right,
do that for 300 a month.
right,
But $1,000 doesn't, you've been there for quite a while. We've been involved in the Philippines forever.
right.
The inflation's hit them. If you
Oh
live
yeah,
in cities, it's not as cheap as you think. Soda is still expensive in the Philippines as it is in America.
right, yep,
So you really have to change your mindset about your expectations.
right.
And I hate to say this,
Go ahead.
I I don't think most Americans can change their expectations.
Right,
I think it's extremely difficult. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to throw a caveat in there. I think people who've been in the military are a different animal. That's a different thing.
sure, sure,
Most Americans don't like change. We
right,
expect to live a certain standard.
sure,
The military guys can kind of roll and adapt to things, I
right,
think. But, most Americans don't want to come over there and sleep with the goats.
right,
I'm not talking about
exactly,
sleeping with the fishes. I'm talking about sleeping with the goats.
right,
Yeah.
yep,
So I think that plays a huge factor in why they don't have any money
right,
at the end of the month.
right. And you gotta save up for those rainy days because they're there, and it's a lot more difficult than these YouTubers. Some of them out here acting like, come on over here for the land of the easy, and that's why you got so many, like, say, Dumageddon. You
Mhm.
know, Dumageddon didn't used to be nothing, nobody there, and then all of a sudden you got these YouTubers there, and they're telling everybody to move there. So then a bunch of them did, and now the prices are just up and up and up. The rent there went way up, and everything went.
But
Oh, we need a
even
bunch
in,
of foreigners now.
in the beginning of Dumaghetti's boom, it
Hmm.
still wasn't realistic. What a lot of people don't get about most YouTubers, you and I excluded,
Right, right,
most YouTubers feed you a bunch of shit.
right,
They blow smoke up your butt
right.
because they want the likes, views, and subscribes, which, by the way,
Sure.
like, subscribe, and share. They
Right,
want to romanticize this, that you will watch their videos more.
right,
So realistic or negative points of views do not get views,
right,
and that's what happens. But, there's actually one or two guys that live in New Maggette that actually told the truth. Most
right,
of them went over just to get YouTube views and
right,
have a YouTube channel. You know
right,
this.
right. Yep,
And
yep,
Dumaghetти now is very expensive because the demand.
right,
It's like, Hawaii 50 years ago, nobody gave a rat's butt about,
right,
and now the poor Hawaiians have to leave their own state,
right,
can't afford to live there. The
right,
Philippine people can't go anywhere. They're not allowed to travel
right,
outside the country.
right.
So
Yep.
what do you think the biggest expense is for people that they don't anticipate?
Um. Well, the thing that I think a lot of foreigners have problems with is if you try to eat like a foreigner and drink like a foreigner, and you know,
Fornicate like a foreigner.
yeah, if
I'm
you
still
try to live there, but you're because everything's going to be so much more expensive, right?
right.
So your macaroni and cheese that you was buying for 99 cents in the state, it's like $5 to get it,
Yeah.
you know, there in the Philippines because, you got to pay that import, and it's if you want to live like a foreigner, stay where you are,
Well, and Bill, and this is kind of my point. I think it's really difficult uh, for most foreigners to, no matter what country you're in,
Mm-hmm.
to live like the native.
Right.
I
Sure.
don't think it's as easy as it sounds. If I went to
Right.
England and lived in England, I think adjusting to that diet, to that
Sure.
lifestyle, would not be as easy as I think it would be.
Right.
Even Australia, it doesn't matter. The Philippines, Thailand,
Right.
and I don't think we think about that as much because, hey,
Mhm.
I can do it. I can
Right.
I can live out in a nipah hut and
Right.
stop the pigs.
Right. I'm a tough guy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at
Even with us, there's like sometimes I crave a steak, right? I want to go get a steak. And a steak where in the US I can get a steak meal for, $20 or under, it's going to cost me, to get a not as good steak, it's going to cost me probably about $50 to get me a steak dinner,
Mhm.
uh, similar to what I would get for pretty cheap in the US.
Oh,
And
absolutely. But then on the other side of that coin would be you can go get Jollibee for
right,
half of what it would cost you to get at McDonald's in
right,
America.
right, right.
But let me
It,
tell you,
it's still expensive though if you look at it
$2
peso to dollar because you're getting such a small whatever it is that most of us got to order a couple. to-
and you get what is it, a Joy Burger for 100 pesos.
right, that thing's like $2 for a slice of meat that's so thin that you can see through it.
It just doesn't work as well
Right,
as we think it will as foreigners. You
right,
know, I know we took many of people out to eat in the Philippines and took them to
right,
Jollibee and Mang Inasal, if I'm pronouncing that right,
right.
and all these other places.
Uh-huh.
And to me, dropping a $20 to feed 5 or 6 people,
Sure.
It's not a big deal,
Right.
but it's a lot of money,
Right.
in the Philippines.
Right.
And you don't get what you think, like Magnet and Sol, they just keep giving you all the rice you can eat.
Right.
You know,
Right. That place is pretty good though.
I don't like the chicken. I don't like the flavor of the chicken. I have a,
You don't like it? Yeah,
I,
it's
I I don't like it. I have a thing about the.
texture and stuff. There's a place that's near us. Well, it's in a town over from us that that specializes in that type of chicken, the NSL, and man, it's so good. I took H2H there and POD, and that's if somebody comes and visits me, we're going to go eat there because it's kind
Yeah,
of a hole in the wall or whatever, but it's good stuff.
for me, it's just the restaurant. That style I like, but there's a
Right.
flavor that they
Yeah.
use
Right.
at that restaurant, those restaurants,
Right.
that sits me. But here's an interesting thing. Talking about expenses. All right, and we're
Sure.
talking about the big expenses. Talking about having a nest egg
Right.
because you got to have a nest egg in the Philippines for a couple of reasons. If
Mhm.
you're a foreigner, one, so you can get the hell out of the Philippines if you ever need to,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Two, to pay your medical bills when you have it.
Right.
And here's what I think is interesting about that is I see and talk to a lot of guys that they're like, well, I'm going to go to the Philippines. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to go find me a chicky doo in the Philippines, and it's going to be so cheap to live there. But you're 70 years old,
Right.
75, your health. You have
Right.
you got to set that nest egg aside to cover your health care.
Right.
I believe like you, the Philippines is a young man's game.
Right.
I think, but I've always thought this. Part of my personal philosophy with my students were don't go to work, go travel while you're young
Sure.
and enjoy it, and you're healthy enough to do it. And then you come back and you work a job and make your money, but go enjoy life while you can. You need to be able to enjoy the Philippines if
Right.
you're going to be there, right?
Right. Yep.
Or, or,
That was one of my biggest problems. The timing that we went there and stuff. We got there, spent a couple years there, then everything went to shit, and it really changed my outlook at how much I liked the Philippines. Right? When it's an open country and you could travel and do what you wanted to and stuff. I was having a great time. We go visit this place or that place, to travel around, see new things, find some cheaper things to do,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden when everything changed, I began to despise some of the stuff because it was just it turned to crap. I thought, I'd rather at that time I was like, man, I'd rather just go back to the U.S. because of the rules and regulations to even go to the store was so vast. It was just ridiculous, and made me remember all the freedoms that I had in my own country that suddenly I couldn't say nothing about, or I couldn't come on YouTube and be like, "Are these mother suckers?" or you know. Uh,
Well, I think you got a valid point. We went to the Philippines right as it was opening back up, and then we
right,
got slammed by the typhoon Odette and wiped us out.
right,
So there was truly times where I just felt like a prisoner, you
right,
know, and with no electric and no water, no
right,
sewer, no toilet. I mean, I just felt
exactly,
and that's kind of my point. You got to be able to enjoy it. If you can't go,
right,
and I go back to this whole thing. If all you're doing is going to the Philippines so that you can hook up with little girls and get drunk,
right, right,
you really need to think long and hard about your finances.
right.
Also about what are you actually going to do in the Philippines. I think Ned from what's Ned's channel? Philippine Dreams.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he said a long, long, long time ago in one of his early videos that if you're bored in your own home country, you're going to be bored shitless here.
Right.
Because you have to have a purpose and something to do there, right?
Right. Yep.
Besides giving everybody your money,
Right.
because you will feel like a cash cow.
Right.
Whether whether it's the people around you, whether it's their intention or not,
Hmm.
that's kind of how you feel, though, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard this from many, 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 many people. I know they don't mean it, but it's
Mhm.
always
But you're looked at differently. You looked at he's here, he must be rich, you know, and then they will not hesitate to come up and ask you for something ridiculous. Like, sir, can you buy me a cell phone? Like, look, I didn't buy my kid a cell phone, and I sure the hell didn't buy you one.
yeah.
Actually, my two sons, they're kind of smart. My two boys that I have in the Philippines. So when they want something, they talk to their brothers back in the U.S. and like, hey, Dad,
Yeah.
Dad's not buying this for me. Can you get it for me?
And they go,
So
oh, sure, why not?
that's how they got their cell phones and different things. I don't know what all my other sons buy for them, but like,
No.
Dad's not buying me this. I know my son, my youngest, got a bicycle not too long ago from one of my boys. So his mom had to go find it, go buy it for him. But you
Yeah,
know,
the request never seems to end.
right?
And,
Like,
I,
but Dad's not buying it for me. Can you? Can you? But
yeah.
it's okay.
And one thing I've told people is, especially the guys that are like dating Filipinas that are
Right.
still, they're here in the US and
Mhm.
they're dating somebody over there. And they're always sending over about like buy-on boxes full of goodies, which is
Sure.
nice. It's a nice
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But if you're worried about the money, just send cash. It's cheaper.
Right. Right.
Because when you go and fill up a like box and ship it to the Philippines, you're going to pay a whole lot more than the $100 you would have sent them through
Right.
FedEx or MoneyGrab
Right.
or one of the other apps.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
spend 5, 6, 7, 800 bucks to get
Hmm.
to get that crap over there
Right.
filled full of goodies. So you're
Right.
better off just sending the girl $100 a month and saying, "This is all I
Mhm.
got."
Right.
Uh,
That's your allowance. You know what we did. My wife was a couponer there while she was in the U.S. So she got all that coupon stuff. So she was getting a lot of stuff for nothing, and she also did. She was some kind of associate with Amazon where she got to test out different
right.
things. So she
Yeah.
was getting all this products and stuff in. So we would have an ongoing ballot buying box. So it just sat there in one of the corners of the house, and we'd always whatever she get throw it in there, and then once it get full, I'd unbox it, repack it, and get it nice and full and tight, and then send it. So it wouldn't be a lot of expense to us. So
We did the same. We have Walmart where we're at, and they have an employee store.
right.
And we would literally, and Walmart around here, they have clearance sales like nobody's business.
Oh, really?
And so we would go in and buy, shirts for $1.
Right. Exactly.
And we would do all of that. And we
Right.
did. We would ship 4, 5, 6 boxes every
Right.
year.
Right.
And I finally got to the point where, man, this is a lot of work. Why don't I just send them money? So
Right.
now
Right.
the kids a birthday gift, cash, and that's it.
Right.
Just from our perspective, it's a lot of
Easy. Sure. Sure.
work, you
Yeah.
know. But that is a good way to do it if that's
Right.
what you're going to do.
Right. Exactly.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing it,
Hmm.
but if your goal is to have a girlfriend who you're supporting,
Right.
better off just to send them some money so
Sure.
they can buy
Right.
rice and
Right.
fish and pay the electric or the cell phone bill
Right.
because one thing I learned when I shipped Lorelai a couple boxes when we were dating,
Mm,
she didn't need a lot of the shit I sent her.
right, right,
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
oh, this is nice. What's this?
right.
You know,
What's
oh.
going on? Yeah,
So,
yeah. I never sent my wife any boxes before, before we met, and we didn't start shipping boxes till she got to the U.S. and then
oh, really? I
yeah,
should I shipped Lorelai a couple.
yeah. Well, just because the plan was, once I started talking to her, the plan was to get married, bring
Same
her
here.
back to the U.S. So I didn't want to ship her nothing because that's more stuff she got to bring. So
Well, I knew that Lorelai was just going to share it with everybody.
sure, sure,
And that's kind of what I did. I bought
right,
enough stuff to share,
right,
to give to the kids. And,
yeah,
I knew she wasn't going to bring it back to the
right,
US. So
right.
it was all meant to. But some of the food
Stay,
items, they're just like,
right,
this is nice,
right,
But
yeah,
the funny thing is, I shipped over pasta, biscotti noodles, and
sure,
from here, and I got them on clearance or something, and spent over 20 or 25 pounds worth of pasta noodles.
wow,
They just love this shit.
yeah,
They thought the American pasta noodle was the bomb. You know,
right.
they were eating pasta all. Oh my god! They're like,
So
"Ew."
good, huh?
But
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know. It's kind of crazy, and part of what I was thinking about with this topic is I know right now the Philippines is kind of getting back to normal, and I know a handful of guys that are in the process of heading to the Philippines currently, or they leave next week or the week after next.
sure,
and and I've been talking to them a lot about getting financially prepared.
right,
And it's not that I'm the smartest guy in the world, but when you kind of been there, done that, and I'm also a very conservative financially type
sure.
of type of guy,
Hmm.
and I've seen those guys who blow through everything, have nothing, just to go to the Philippines,
Sure,
and it can be a huge disappointment.
right, yeah,
Because sometimes what a lot of people won't say is the girlfriend doesn't turn out to be the girlfriend. The girlfriend
right,
turns out to be somebody else's girlfriend.
right. Already married to somebody else.
I even got a thing on Facebook today. I don't know if you saw this. There's a thing from the New York group of Filipinos out of New York, who I guess he's sending this out to all the other groups. And we belong to one here. We belong to a lot of them in the nation, but ours
Sure,
here. He sent a picture of a woman and a guy and saying, "Do you know these people? This is my wife, and apparently her cousin, who she's been sleeping with the 10 years that we've been married."
good Lord. Yep,
Now,
yeah,
so I guess she gets to go back to the Philippines and have her fun, then comes back home to honey in New York. And,
sure,
you know, so it can be an emotional roller coaster.
right,
And then if you throw in financial devastation along with it,
right,
and that's something because, none of us want anybody to have a bad experience in the Philippines.
sure,
But you got to have realistic expectations, don't you
right.
agree?
Oh yeah,
I mean, do
yeah.
you know anybody personally who's had a bad experience in the Philippines?
Well, if it's the people that through me came to the Philippines, they always have a great time because you know we tell them the warning and what to do and what not to do and where to go and where not to go, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So personally, the people that it's came over um, have loved it. But it seems like the people that listen to some of these bullshit YouTubers and here's what you need to do, here's how you do it, and all this. bully, buy my program, and you 19.95 a month, and I'll tell you how to get yourself a. These are the guys that I always hear the horror stories from. Yeah, I did like he said, but this is what happened to me. I went to this area like he told me to, and they got me for this. And then I tried to ask him for help, and he asked me for money.
Sucker born every day, though. That's how I look at that.
Yeah,
If
like
and
what?
hey, and I'm going to throw this out. If anybody's out there in the world and you want to pay Bill or I, hey, you can pay us. You don't
Sure,
have to pay us, but
sure,
we'll take your money.
yeah,
But I'll give you all the free advice you want.
exactly.
You, but hey, if you want to dump your money, but like what is it? P.T. Barnum always said, "There's always a sucker born every day."
Right,
If you now look, I get the people that are uncomfortable.
right,
If it's like, look, I just don't feel comfortable. I need a little bit of hand holding.
sure,
Oh, I get that concept. I really, really do.
right,
For the guys that are being sold a bill of goods about, look, you give me 19.95 a month, and holy crap, woohoo,
make your dreams come true.
the sucker born every day,
Right,
and then they
yeah,
wind being highly disappointed,
right,
and that's
yeah,
sad to all of us because it's
mhm,
not necessary.
right,
If they would just reach out to the right people, those wouldn't happen.
right,
But I have some friends that went over a couple of months ago, and I won't use your names. But they went over for the 30 days to go on a vacation. They had
sure,
no girlfriends, no wife. I mean, one of them's married, but that's it. Somebody else went with them, went to go party. And when they got back, I'm like, well, how much did you wind up spending? And like in 30 days, they blew five, six, seven, $8,000.
sure,
Where did they go? They went to the bars.
right,
They went home with a girl every night, but their wallet got emptied every day too.
right,
You know, and
yep,
and so if you want that type of lifestyle, you got to pay. But $1,000 a month isn't going to get you there.
no,
And I told people, and I think you agree with this, Bill. You can live a decent life there if you
mhm,
mind your business, support your family, just be a normal family man like you
right,
would in America.
right, yep,
Yeah. But if
hmm,
you get out there drinking and doing stupid crap, one, the hookers are going to get you. The
right,
friends are going to get you. Two, the police may get you.
right,
The payoff, you're going to have to be paying somebody somewhere
yep,
because, yeah,
yep. I've heard some war stories on that stuff, and I'm glad I don't deal with it. I'm glad I never have to worry about. The hooker told the cop that's beating on my door that I did something to her, I hit her or something, and now they want fifty
$1,000,
thousand pesos to
make it
not
all go away.
make it go away. Right?
Make it all go away. But part of the cautionary tale is we don't want that negativity to be spotlighted on the Philippines and Filipino
Right,
because look, that's really not what the Philippines is all about. Wouldn't you
right,
agree? The Philippines, for the most part, is a family country.
right,
It's hardworking people. It's people trying to make a better life for themselves. They're good people. They want the best for you and for everybody. So
right.
the idiots that go over and do these things, are where the Philippines get a bad rep,
Sure.
and that's really sad for
Right,
me.
right,
And the guys that go over not preparing for what's going to really happen there financially is the other way. Because when they come home with their tails behind their
right.
tail, what is that? Their tail between their legs.
Sure.
They're broke now, and nobody will have anything to do with them.
Right,
Because a lot of American guys, a lot of guys need to know this: the people of the Philippines can't afford to support you,
right. It's not going to happen.
right? You
Right.
know, I remember that. 5, 10 years ago, that Peter guy that was on the street, homeless, begging, I don't
Right.
know, you know, and
Right.
I'm thinking, why would these people that have nothing, why are you pissed off? Because they won't help you just because you're a white guy,
Right. Yep.
I mean,
Mm.
but he was an oddball anyway, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really.
There's many of them, boy.
Well, there is, and maybe we're two of them. I don't know, but
Yeah. There's actually, some of them get popular, but then there's those that you never see or hear about, but they're same situation. And there's one guy that I've watched for a while, and he's in the drama of the Philippines and stuff. But he gets a small Social Security check, and he blows through it every month and lives like he did no management of money, and he's on his YouTube straight begging people to please send me something so I
I can
can
drink more.
do something. Yeah, he always got something he's got to do, and he never does it. And it's just a mess to watch it. Like, man, but people watch him because he's a train wreck, and you just don't look away from that train wreck crap. So
Well, and there are a lot of train wrecks, I
yeah,
think, to be
yeah,
honest,
a
in
lot.
the Philippines and on the YouTube world. I believe
Sure.
there's a lot of train wrecks.
Yeah,
More train wrecks than excellent YouTubers such as you and I.
there you go.
So, but the e-baking is a whole other thing. And this is kind of folds into this. As I've said earlier, if you can't afford to live in America, you really can't afford the Philippines either.
Right.
Because the money is the money, the money is the
Right.
money. If you can't
It
manage well enough where
is what it is.
you can't manage there.
Right.
And if you think you're going to go over there and hustle and e-beg, you know,
Right. Yep.
or you think you're so damn good looking that the little Filipino girl is going to go get a job and she's going to work 10 hours a day just so you can sit at home and drink and pass out in front of your computer, you
Right.
know, while they're busting their butt just to make ends meet and to live.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Not
so
gonna happen, huh?
I
Well,
don't think it is.
something that is kind of crazy, and people handle money differently, and
Mhm.
so I've had people argue with me about the person that can come to the Philippines. They got an X amount of money in their savings or whatever,
Yeah.
and they want to live in the Philippines or whatever. And the person that gets Social Security or retirement or whatever, and he's telling this other person that you're not able to live in the Philippines because you got whatever it may be. Maybe we'll just throw out a number. Say he's got 500,000 in the bank, okay, and but the guy that doesn't really have a lot of savings or whatever, but he gets his Social Security every month, tells this 500,000 guy that he's not going to make it, and I get so tickled at this type of advice. It's like you have no money except for your Social Security that you're getting, and you're telling somebody that was able to save and have money. I mean, this guy's got money for a reason, and you're telling him he can't make it, but you can because you get your Social Security. It's like, come on, people. People handle money differently. And if you're a bad handler of money, just like you said, if you suck at it in the U.S., you're going to suck at it even worse, probably in the Philippines, right?
That's right.
So,
Trust me, if a dude has 500 bucks in the bank, $500,000 in the bank, and he's been saving it, he
right,
can proportion and manage that money so that
right,
he can live in the Philippines.
exactly,
Trust me on this.
right,
He can budget his funds enough to do
right,
that. I promise you that.
right,
You know, without question.
Right.
Otherwise, you would be like the guy that only gets those. And this is what I said earlier in the
Right.
video. A lot of these guys that I talk to, and I hate picking on them, but a lot of them think they're my friends, but they think they're escaping the United States to go
Right.
live, like kings in the
Right.
Philippines, but
Right.
they can't even live in America.
Right.
And if you can't manage, you can't manage.
Right.
And I said earlier in the video, I did a tiny bit of research.
Mhm.
Social Security, the bare minimum, the lowest amount that they pay out a month is $53 in retirement. I didn't know that until this week.
Oh.
So if you've earned your 10 years, your full
Mhm.
40 credits, and all you made was crap wages for those 40 credits,
Right.
your lowest amount check is $53 a month. So some of these people are only making $300, $400, $500, $600 a month.
Right.
I think the average is probably 800 to 1,000, somewhere in that
Sure.
neighborhood, 800 to 1,200.
Right.
Couldn't find the average,
Right.
but if you think, and I get it, being poor anywhere sucks because I'm
Right.
poor and I hate being poor. Uh, Now, I will just pointedly say, and I've said this before, that I felt poorer while I lived in the Philippines.
Sure.
I felt poorer,
Right.
much poorer,
Right.
like my grandparents did back in the 20s and 30s,
Right.
going through the Great Depression.
Right.
So, but I don't know, man. I don't know and I wish all of these guys the best. And I know, and a lot of these guys do have it figured out. And that's
Someone.
what
Yep.
I think it's the minority, the minority, not the majority, that
Right.
have the problems.
Right.
Because I know a lot of military guys that are pulling in way more money than I ever will.
Sure.
They're living in the Philippines
Hmm.
and they're doing just fine. And they're having a good life, and their money is in the United States. Their
Hmm.
assets are here.
Right.
And like we've said before, but I also think military people can go live in that damn nipa hut with the goats and be just fine.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, us fat old white boys who's never served, who's used to the good life. I don't want to go sleep with the goats in the nipa
Right.
hut.
I'd like to have some air conditioning and some some
And
fan,
water, you know.
a
So
mattress.
we have to give it to them for that. So
Mhm.
I'm impressed by what military guys do over there.
Sure.
I am. I just have to say that.
Hmm.
I don't know, man. What other things can you think about that's related to money or finances that surprises you in this world?
Well, as far as the Philippines, I'm going to give a stern warning to all you foreigners that you ready for it?
Lay it on us.
All right. Here's something that the Philippines, the people in the Philippines do not understand. A lot of them, some of them do, but a lot of them do not. Um, just because you got enough capital to start a business does not mean you should do it. I've seen so many people waste just because you're Filipina wants a sorry store. You will be most likely sorry that you ever got into it. So don't waste your time, your money, your effort to start something like that. Put all your money into it and watch it disappear because it's going to. It may last for a little while, but there'll be a point that you get to. You're gonna wish to God you did not have this sorry store. So starting a business in the Philippines is not. Uh, as simple as they tried to tell you. Everybody has a business. I don't know what it is, but they have a business for the title. I own a sorry store. I have a Canadian or whatever. It's all for titles. It's not for profit. if you think you're going to have a business where you're actually making a profit, it's very unlikely. I know a guy right now. He's in CDO right now. He's one of our friends. He's there with his Philippine girlfriend, and he swears to me that they make 2,500 pesos a day. And you know, I tried to explain to him how this is not what he makes. This is the money that he has in his hand at the end of the day, but that's not made money.
It's not
So
profit.
it's not a profit. That's you didn't make that. How much did you really make? Did you make, you know,
After
500 pesos? How
yeah,
much work did you do for that 500 pesos? People don't, it's not business in the Philippines is very rough to get into and very, that's one of the things we were about to pull the trigger right before the pandemic came and start something. We got some businesses, but nothing
like
big
retail.
brick and mortar, right? So we were about to pull the trigger and start something, and we were trying to figure out exactly what we wanted to do, but you know, I had been a manager for retail for many, many years, so I know a little bit about running some businesses. So and I kept trying to punch numbers, see what we can make, what it's going to cost us, all that stuff. But I could never decide which way I wanted to waste my money the most. So,
And let's talk about that because I find this very, very curious. I agree.
sure,
We have been approached numerous times. Oh, do you want to invest in our piggery? Do you
right,
want to invest in our sorry? We wanted to.
right,
No, I do not. I trust none of you.
right,
But I think, and I hate to say this because I know some Filipinos that own businesses here in the United States,
right,
very successful.
sure,
I also know some Filipinos in America that their husband supports their business
right,
100%. There is no
right,
money in it.
right,
I don't know if it's lack of knowledge, work ethic, not caring.
right,
Like, well, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? I'm having a good time. I have
right,
somewhere to go every day. So
right,
it gives me a self purpose.
right,
And I agree. Look, if I can afford and and if you can afford to do a sorry story store and
hmm,
let your wife run it and that makes her happy and you're not worried about the money, hey, by all means,
right,
whatever. But if you're going to do a business, which means to earn revenue,
right,
to make a profit, it's not going to happen.
right,
We looked at buying a resort in the Philippines.
hmm,
And I did. I studied this really hard. I spent
hmm,
a lot of time. What could we do with this resort? Yes, we could. This part of the property could go with the sorry store. All of
hmm,
these things.
right,
And my wife is very, very good in business, without question.
right,
But my concern was, could we make enough money to pay the salaries for every employee that we had,
right,
pay for everything. And
hmm,
at the end of the day, and we talked about this before the pandemic too. We were getting ready to do this. So
hmm,
we got really lucky because we didn't drop millions.
right,
We were looking at buying a $12 million property, 12
hmm,
million peso property
right,
that had a resort on it.
right,
So glad we didn't do that.
right.
Plus, I know that I wouldn't be able to keep good employees. That's the
So
problem.
hard, so hard,
I mean, you want to pay them a fair wage, but
right,
sometimes that's not enough.
right,
You still got to make a profit with it because you
right,
have a lot of. I don't know if you ever remember Rodney Dangerfield,
hmm,
the comedian.
yeah, yeah,
There was a movie back in the '80s called Back to School, where
mm,
he's a filthy rich business guy,
right,
and
right,
his son is going to business college or wherever,
mm,
and he goes to hang out with his son, and he goes in and teaches a business class on a lot, he's in the business class, sorry. And the professor is up there saying, well, here's how the business works. And he's in the audience laughing his ass off because that ain't how it works.
Right.
And the guy, the instructor's like, well, you just explain it to me. It's like, well, okay, what about the labor union? What about the mafia? What about this you got to pay off? What about the Teamsters? What about the truck people you got to pay off?
Right. Exactly.
And I'm not saying, you got to bribe everybody in the Philippines, but
there's a lot of it though. You're not lying. So a lot of palms got to be buttered is what I call it.
And now, at least when we were there, because we have friends that have little businesses, they're coming after you. The tax man's coming in the Philippines, right? Yep. So now they're wanting you to have licenses. So if you knew how to make a food product and could set up a little mom and pop place, to where you could do that, you could make a scratch. You're not going to make a fortune. You could scratch out a little bit of coin, not a lot. But if you think you're going to, no. So I can't think of any business in the Philippines that we would invest our money. We bought real estate, which is still very iffy. Like I said earlier in the video, there's no guarantee that down the road that the Philippine government won't take that from us.
True.
Because, Lorelai is a dual citizen, but she's also an American citizen.
Sure.
So there's no guarantee that if they privatize everything, if war of China breaks out, and that's what I was telling them about putting your 500,000, your 200,000 into Philippine banks.
Sure.
The stupidest thing you can do.
Right.
Absolutely the stupidest thing you can do. You got to keep your assets in America. The other thing that I give advice about, Bill, is this, and see what you think of this. When it comes to banking and finance, if you're going to have things like your cell phone or the cable bill or whatever, your car payment, directly deposited or withdrawn out of your checking account, I recommend that you have two checking accounts. Sure. One that is specially designed just for money to come out of.
Right.
With limited funds.
Right.
So every month, I got $500 coming out. I'm putting $501 in it.
Right. Exactly.
That way, somebody at the bank can't accidentally withdraw more money than that's in it.
Right. Right.
And then you can have another one that has a little bit more of a slush fund, if you like, so that you have the ATM machine and uses that. Right. So without getting too personal, how do you bank in the Philippines?
Well, of course, we have our American banks, and with our savings and checking accounts and stuff, and that's our staples, right?
Yes.
Then me personally, I do not have an account in the Philippines. My wife does have a couple accounts there, and so I didn't want to go through the process of trying to get my name on something, and I trust my wife. We don't put enough money in there that I would ever sweat it. So
whatever.
Exactly. And like you were saying earlier, have different ways of transferring and switching up monies and all that good stuff. Have different things set up. And, if I got to put money, like yesterday, $200 to my wife, boom, went through PayPal. Somebody paid me, boom, went to PayPal, went straight to my wife. She did what she needed to do with it. Right. So, but it's not, of course, we got to pay a fee or whatever, but it's not going to be as much as the risk is if I decide to, hey, let me stick $25,000 into the China bank and see if anything happens to, let's not be dumb about, we don't have a lot of money anyways, but, if I did, I still wouldn't be sticking a bunch of it into the banks over there, and be very wary, and
Well, I agree, and I mean, preaching to the choir is because we do that and did do that. And one thing I tell people, a lot of people don't realize that if you're going to there's two different ways to look at it. If you're going for your millionaire holiday, you
Right.
can just call your credit card company or your
Right.
bank card company and say, look, I'm
Mhm.
going to be in the Philippines for 30 days.
Right.
So they'll go, okay, great. Thank you
Right.
for
Right.
that. And you can use your debit card and your
Right.
Visa card to pay for things. We did it
Right.
all the time.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I love Charles Schwab. Everybody in this world knows I'm a huge fan of Charles Schwab,
Right.
and I have no problems. I've used their card all over the world. Never
Mhm.
had a lick of trouble. I've taken cash out in multiple countries,
Right.
ATMs, and they've always paid me back.
Right.
No issues. So there
Mhm.
are ways that you don't have to carry a bunch of cash with
Right.
you.
Right. Well,
Credit cards, same way,
yeah,
but
my wife is the credit card queen. She got her. We're pretty much, to be honest with you, we're pretty much debt free. Before we went to the Philippines, we got out of debt, etc. And so, we have a credit card that we use, and that thing is she'll charge it up and then pay it off, charge it up, pay it off, that kind of thing. That she'll, you know.
well, I'll
So
put
we
it
do.
on how we do it because we're debt free except for this house that we purchased.
Sure,
I
sure,
built.
yeah,
We have a mortgage, but on that we're debt free.
right,
Uh,
right.
but I've been a member of Discover Card forever and have, and I
Mhm.
have a really good points system with
Mhm.
Discover.
Mhm.
We charge everything, and
Do
I
that.
everything we purchase on
Mm.
Discover, and we pay it off every month. So every
Awesome.
month I make a couple $100 from
Sure.
Discover in points, and I
Right,
cash it in for money.
right.
We'll save it up and go on a cruise or a trip or whatever. But that's one way you can do it
Hmm.
is you got the right type of credit card. You put
Right,
everything on the credit card. You pay it off monthly.
right.
American Express is really good about this too. They got a lot
Mm.
of a good point systems. I've just
Mm.
done Discover forever, so
Yeah, yeah.
you know. So
I
that
used to have both back in the day, but like I said, we paid everything off and got rid of all the cards and
oh,
temptation.
but it's just being smart about business. It's
Right,
for for instance, because we don't carry debt on it. I just pay it off every month.
right, right, right,
Years ago, we like cruises.
right.
And so Carnival Cruise Line, whatever, I think it's Barclays Bank is who they
Hmm.
use. They had this really good offer, $500 cash back after you spent a certain amount. And
Mm.
you got all these points that you could use on a cruise ship. I
Wow.
took out their credit card and booked the cruise. That
Mm.
gave us back $500. When we got back from the cruise, I had another $400 in points. So I got to take $900 off of our $3,000 cruise,
Right,
right? And then
right,
I canceled the card.
right. Exactly. Very
So you
nice.
can be really smart about credit cards.
Hmm. Right,
The people that are smarter than us and that have a lot more money than we do always say, you always use somebody else's money, not
right,
your own.
right, right.
Never use your own money,
Hmm.
you know. So,
Yeah,
but you can use credit cards in the Philippines.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
a lot of places, when you get out in the province like where we live at, there's a lot of places that I can't even go to the 7-Eleven with the credit card. I better either have GCash or cash. But the GCash I can load up with the credit card, or you know.
Well, and you're exactly right, and that's something we need to clarify. If you're in the cities, I'll say two things. Say exactly. If you're in the cities, there's going to be way more people, hotels especially,
Right,
nice restaurants,
right.
things like that. S&R, the
Hmm.
grocery stores.
Right,
We use our debit card or our cards all the time in the
right,
Philippines at the grocery store.
right.
Now, but there's certain places I refuse that would take one to
Mm.
use one.
Right.
Not going to go through, and Discover and Charles Schwab are very good about taking care of me, but I
Hmm.
didn't want to put myself at risk when
Right.
I'm outside of town a little bit at some restaurant.
Sure.
I don't know, I don't trust. I'd rather just give them cash,
Right, right.
you know,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. Very much.
And and maybe you can answer this for anybody who watches this, because here's the funny thing, Bill, just on a YouTube point of view or a point,
Hmm.
I get a whole lot of people that watch my live streams after the fact.
Right.
Maybe they don't like me, so they don't want to watch me live.
Right.
I get a lot of views after the fact for some strange.
Sure.
So, how much money or cash do you think a 30-day visitor should walk around with in his pocket? Just carry, just cash, just loose change.
Well, depending on where he is, of course. If you're in Cebu, if you're in Manila, where a lot of things cost a lot more, you're gonna want to have like $1,000, to whatever you may need, right? But say you're out in the province or whatever,
$1,000 or 1,000 pesos
dollars.
for walking around money
Well, for as far as cash,
for
like
your
you
30
can
days.
get a hold of, what I'm saying, whether it's a debit or, you
Okay.
know,
Okay.
just that's easily to get a hold of, because you never know.
Yeah.
Somebody run
Uh-huh.
over your foot. You got to go to the hospital. You need that $1,000 so you can pay your medical bills. But they're in the province or whatever. If I keep a couple $100 on this on hand, I'm typically we're good. We're not gonna, you know, there's not that much no surprise spending. I'm not gonna run across uh, oh look, they got this and I really want it. Let me buy it right now. From a store that doesn't take a card or whatever. It's
Hmm.
a couple $100, you're good to go. And that could also be plenty enough. As far as I'm gonna tell something that I should probably I don't know if I should or not, but I don't have money on me when I'm out and about.
I
I
don't either.
don't. I,
I don't either.
my wife has the money. She does the transactions, and that's the way we like it, and that saves us a lot of money as well. So
You never carry much anyway. So,
right, exactly. So, but those people that are on vacation, maybe they're out and about. This is a really nice resort. I want to go ahead and stay another night. I really enjoyed the accommodations. Let me go ahead and book it a couple more days or what. If you had $1,000, or whatever, that's 20. Was that 20,000 pesos? You're good to go, man. You're just as long as you're not trying to buy the bar or pay for everybody's drinks or something, you should be good to go. So
yeah, I don't disagree. I, but here's what I'm going to say. I do think if you're over in the Philippines for the 30-day, let's say they're a
sure,
30-day vacation,
sure.
and if you're a normal person,
Mhm.
$1,000. Well, it also depends on your hotels.
Right,
Are you
right,
are you staying at a friend's or a girlfriend's, or are
exactly.
you having to book your hotel? So
Right,
if you're talking about minus your hotel, because
sure,
for instance, we like to stay at nice places. So
sure,
even in the Philippines, the nice places might run you $75 to $100 a night.
sure. Yeah,
In the city,
mhm,
in
right.
places. So, hello, Mountain. Good to see you.
Welcome in.
You know what I mean? It kind of depends on, but walking around having quick access to that cash, I
Right,
absolutely, I absolutely agree that 1,000 should do it if you're a normal human being.
right,
But we
exactly.
appreciate that, Mountain. We really do. Everybody say hello to everybody. And but if you're coming over for the 30 days and your plan is to drink and whore around,
Right.
$1,000 not going to get you very far,
No,
right?
no.
So
You're probably going to get rolled for that 1,000 anyways. No, no. Some of the stories I heard. So,
because you're in the wrong location.
right. You're doing the wrong things anyways, and they see you coming. They can
Yeah,
spot you a mile away. You've never been there. They know you've never been there. They
yeah.
see you coming.
And you're walking up and down Walking Street looking,
Right.
looking like a big giant target.
Yeah.
and they're going to find you.
Right.
But I agree with the concept. When we're in the Philippines, I carry a little cash, but my wife handles the cash.
Exactly.
But even the last couple of times, we don't carry nowhere near as much as cash as I did 10 years ago
Right. Right.
because there's so many more places to take the visas and debits
Right.
in the
Exactly.
city. You don't need to just walk around with a wad of cash anymore,
Right.
which
Right.
is nice,
Mm-hmm.
which is really nice, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still important to have enough cash.
Right.
I tell people, I think if you can, the real question, Bill, is this: for the 30-dayers,
Mm-hmm.
um, where are they going to keep their money if they don't have a place to keep it?
Right.
Meaning, if I go to the Philippines for a short vacation of my wife, 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
well, we have a bank, we have credit, so I don't need to carry a lot of cash. But if I take $1,000 in cash, where am I going to hide it at?
Exactly.
That's the question. So
Right.
I got a good safe place I can hide it. We don't walk around with no more than, $50 on us.
Right.
You
For
know,
the typical just out and about, that's about what you need, right?
yeah, $20, $50.
Yeah.
You just don't need a lot of
Right.
a lot of cash to carry.
Mm-hmm.
Because the little places that you're going to go, maybe the little sari stores or the little food
Mm-hmm.
restaurants or the
Mm-hmm.
little food places, and one thing we were talking about the other day with a Yank in the Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
who's actually in the air now to the Philippines.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's going back home.
Mm-hmm.
Was what do you do with the cash?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of bills do you carry?
Right.
And we've always talked about the best thing you can do, even in America, or as soon as you land, is
Mm-hmm.
exchange some money and get the smallest bills possible.
Sure.
You don't want to be carrying around, the large bills, so that if you go to a little mom and pop place,
Right.
don't break out the wallet and show that you got a wallet full, 1,000 pesos or
That's
5,000, you
right.
show the little stuff, right?
Right. Yep.
And you pay them in 50 pesos at a time, or the
Right.
little bills, and you give
Right.
tips in the
Right.
little bills.
Right.
That's how you protect yourself, and it also sends the message that maybe you don't have any money. So,
Right.
and one thing I tell people, because I made this mistake. Look, I'll tell on myself a little bit. My wife gets mad at me because I over tip.
Sure.
And I've always just believed that you tip well,
Right.
and you got to be careful in the Philippines, coming from
Mm-hmm.
a country like America, how
Right.
much you tip people.
Yep. You do. You know, there's a difference. When I was there for vacations, I used to overtip, and you know, I would tip people that never been tipped before. I'm out in the province; they've never been tipped. They're looking at me like, "Why am I giving them money?"
Yeah,
And like, "You already paid your bill. What are you doing?
yeah,
What is this?" Um, but once I moved there and I lived there and I got to know a little bit better that, hey, this is not the norm. This is not what everybody does. So I still want to tip them, but I tip them a little more reasonable. A little. I'm not trying to tip them according to American standards anymore. Maybe I give them a 50 pesos, 100 pesos. You know, when you're at a restaurant, you have like 12 different waiters that came to your table, anyways. And
right.
I'm thinking, "Whoa, holy crap. Why don't I just have one waiter like in America?" But, I'll just hand them each a 50, boom, 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 on my way out or whatever. And, they're just shocked most of the time that they're getting anything, but not to give them each 500, because I could. Don't do that stuff. You're setting yourself up for failure. So
Well, and I think there's another side of that coin too, uh,
right.
which I was told because the time before whatever, One of the times we went on vacation there, we stayed at the Bai Hotel in
Sure.
Sydney, which is Korean owned,
Uh-huh.
and they don't allow tipping. They don't allow it, so you cannot tip. You know,
Right.
but I was so in this, and I tell the story that we're at the Bai Hotel, we're staying there for a month, and I don't know, Lorelai goes bowling or something with the girls. I don't care.
Mhm.
I go up to the pool and hang out and go downstairs and eat or whatever. And she comes back and I'm gone and panics like I've been kidnapped or murdered or
Right.
ran away or something.
Right.
She
What
has
happened to
the hotel in a tizzy about
him?
where's my husband? He's gone. And I'm sitting outside, eating
Right.
a fish sandwich. But
Right.
but I went down later that day to tip the girl. This is part of what I learned. Tip the girl who helped her out, tracked
Sure.
her down.
Right.
And she explained that their policy, blah, 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 blah. And I said, okay, well, I understand that. But just in talking to her, I asked her about tipping in general. And she said, well, because I got really, and I found it a very interesting conversation.
Sure.
The
Sure.
owner of the hotel doesn't allow it. But she said, part of the problem we have when foreigners come to America, foreigners come to the Philippines,
Right.
is they will tip somebody so much that it draws a target on that individual's back. So
Right.
maybe you're at a restaurant and I our bills, I don't know, $100 and I leave $120. From
Sure.
that's a big deal. But that extra $20 could cause a lot of trouble from the
Sure.
co-workers, is what she was
Right.
explaining.
Right.
And for a little bit further down the road with that is she was telling me sometimes the other girls get jealous. So
Sure.
they will go and say to the boss, that girl who got the tip, whatever, she was flirting with that American. She was
Right.
inappropriate to get her
Right.
in trouble because they got such of a nice big tip.
Right. Right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could be setting them up to put pressure onto a foreigner, the next one that comes through, right?
Yes.
So all suddenly you got somebody that's looking at you like you're a money bag when you sit down at their table.
Yeah.
Instead of, I mean, I went to a barbershop before where the guy said to my wife, "Oh, thank you for bringing him here because I really, you know, I really wanted to him to tip me good today because I need the money." And that messed up because my wife is the one with the money, so she's like, "Oh, so you just wanted to take advantage of my husband instead of giving him a good haircut."
No, that is funny because one of the funny things is when we were there, we would order food and the Grab driver, is it Grab? The
Right?
food guy,
Yeah.
would come and Lorelai would be somewhere else, and she's like, "Well, here's the money to pay him. He owes you this much," and I'm just like, it's like 380 pesos. Here's 500. Just take it
Right.
in.
Right. Right.
Yeah. No,
No.
I'm like, well, then you should stay home and pay him yourself.
Right.
Then I
Right.
don't really, you know.
Yeah. 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 We had to have the conversation with the kids and stuff about um because my older son there in the Philippines, he's usually the one running out to the gate to get any food deliveries or whatever, and we had to tell him, here I I don't want to sound too cheap, but here's how we do our tip in there for that. Typical our tip is typically 20 to 40 pesos depending on how much we order, right? And so I always make sure that well we paid it in Cash App, maybe we sent the tip with it as well, or Gcash or whatever. But if it's cash, then if we spent 200 pesos for whatever it was, then hey, just give them a 20. Make sure what you're going to get, because I don't want to draw too much attention to my house,
I,
to us. And if we tip them like, here's an American, he's going to give you $5 every time, then we're gonna get the knock in every time somebody's sick. Somebody,
Yeah.
hey, you got all this extra money, I know. So here's, let me tell you a sob story. And,
Yeah, and I get that, and I wasn't too good at that, to be honest, because I felt bad for them.
sure,
Because now, and here's why: not because they're poor and they live in the
right,
Philippines. I felt bad for them because it's hot as hell. They're
right.
on those damn scooters in heavy traffic. They
Right.
earn that damn tip.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah,
if I had to pay somebody in America to do that,
right,
to go
right,
through all of that traffic and
right,
to fight it and to deal with the heat and the helmet and the
right,
damn shoes on the moped or the
right,
motorcycle, you
right.
know, hell, I'd have to pay $20 in America to get somebody to
Oh
do
yeah,
what they just did for 50 pesos.
right. Exactly, exactly.
That was part of my downfall
Hmm.
because I'm like, man, I know how hard it is to get from the Jolly Bee to here.
Right,
Be 30
exactly.
minutes in a damn, to get
Traffic.
from
Yep.
point A to point B in
Right,
traffic. So
right,
the old boy deserves a little extra there, Laura,
right, right.
and so
Yeah,
she finally got to the point where she'd break out the money and say, here's exactly what you're giving him.
right. Tell them to keep the change. Yep. And that's kind of how we did. We actually set up. We have one of the businesses we have is a Wi-Fi pesos, right?
Mhm.
Peso Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
where they put the peso. But we take some of the coinage from that we make, and we just have a bucket that we, this is our tip bucket that people that delivers packages, whatever. This is where we're getting that 20 pesos or whatever it may be, and so my son, if we already Gcashed them the amount for the food or whatever they're delivering, then he's just going to grab the 20 out of there and take it, and boom.
Well, and
Easy.
that's part of what I told Lorelai was, look, and maybe this is just a learning curve on my side of it, though, was when we Gcash and paid them, and you could put the tip on it. I get
Yeah,
it, right?
right.
But
Sometimes.
what's to say they're going to get the tip?
Right.
Because how I don't know how it works there. It's like
Yeah,
I don't, I know it's kind of like here in the United States, for instance.
right.
I like to tip in cash
Sure.
versus on my card
Right.
because then I know the tip goes in the pocket and the
Sure.
government doesn't take 33% of it
Sure. Sure.
off the top. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I always told her, I said, but when you're using Gcash, is GCAP taking part of their tip?
Right.
And I don't think that's fair.
Right. Exactly.
So that was
Yep.
kind of you know,
Sure.
my
Yep.
my drama there with
Yeah.
that. I'm like, well, fine, I'll give them 5 more pesos when they get here. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
and it got to the point where I'm just
So,
going to prove a point. I'll give them extra when they get here, no matter what you say.
right. Uh,
You're not going to tell me what to do,
right.
But
Right.
that's just kind of my deal about tipping and finance. I do think, though, I have a philosophy that if you tip and you're polite, whether you you don't have to over tip if you're just a decent human being.
Right. Right.
You'll still get great service and
Right.
return service and be respected if you tip fairly and just be a decent human being.
Right. Agree.
Because people that work for tips, they need that money. That's
Right.
why they do it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I got brothers that were in the restaurant game and
Right.
they
Right.
worked and they
Mhm.
hustle for their tips.
Right.
So I can,
Yeah, I used to do it in high school and while I was in college. I worked for tips. I worked for Chi Chi's for a while. I wasn't a waiter. I was a bus boy and then like a bar back or whatever. And we make tips. And then I went into the hotel deal where I was bussing tables, room service, driving people to the airport, doing all that kind of stuff. And tip was it paid way better than my than my wage, right? So
well,
I understand what it's like to get tips, so I definitely try to take care of. But different places, different rules, right?
yeah, I guess I have a thing. I don't like being asked for a
Right,
tip.
right,
Pisses me off. But
right,
if you don't ask me for a tip and you treat me really well, I'll tip you very well.
right, Right.
But if you're asking me, fuck you.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, what? And then the mandatory tipping thing at
Right.
restaurants in America. I don't know if you know this, but
Hmm.
if you got a party of 6 or more, they're going to
Right.
charge you an extra 25%, and
Right.
then you don't get any other tip.
Right. That's it.
So all right, guys. Well, we've been on for 2 hours. We covered a whole lot of topics about money in the Philippines. That
Yeah.
was our goal tonight. I probably didn't cover everything that's
Right.
out there. You got anything coming up, Bill, that you want to announce?
Actually, it's tax season, so I've been working on my taxes this week. So we haven't been doing too many lives. We did put out a video yesterday. If somebody wants to take a look at it, the attack dogs. They're ready to go watch it.
Heard the word video.
Right, they heard about it already. But we put out a video. We had one of our friends from YouTube send my wife a new uniform. So
Wow.
pretty nice. So she unboxed it there, and you guys check it out. It's a quick
We
video.
saw a video about the new Skechers slip-in shoes.
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't watched it yet, but
Yeah,
yeah,
they've come out with some new revolutionary technology for shoes.
right. For all us lazy people that don't like to tie.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
One of them. So we dropped that, and we always got stuff coming out, and we're trying to do live streams every Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. now is what we're
Very
doing.
good.
Summer's here almost, so we
Right.
like to go out and do activities,
Right.
and then come in later when the sun goes down. So that's
Right.
why we moved it to that.
Very good.
But I appreciate you being here.
No problem.
Everybody that's been here, Joe in the background, appreciate you guys. Everybody take care, and we will see you next Tuesday night.
All right. Next time, bye everybody. Aloha from Hawaii.
Take care, guys.
You too.